I guess the first thing, Adia, can you just talk about the players that you've added that like the high school recruits and then also the transfers?
Yeah, so really excited. I can't talk about the high school yet because just they haven't signed.
Oh
Because
no, I'm not talking about I'm talking about like the 2020
yeah, okay,
ones.
so
Montana.
2020. And we actually have one 2021. You guys can look it up, but I was happy about that one because that's someone who I've been recruiting since I first got here. But for 2020, so excited. I think that the most recent recruit that we got was Trinity.
Mhm.
And Trinity, at first, if you look, she was only going to go close to home. So she went to Virginia Tech. She's from Florida. So I just figured, like, let's try it. I just went out. I did not think we'd have a chance. And I know she's a beast. I was watching her synergy. I was so excited. I was like, whoa, she's like a missing piece that we need. And at first, I called her. We had a really good conversation. And the next day, she texted me and she was like, oh, coach, I'm going to stay close to home. And I was like, oh, man, because I was like, dang, we had a really good conversation. She was engaged. And then she like basically broke up with me the next morning. And then she called me back. And then I was like, oh, did you change your mind? Have you changed your heart? Then we just started talking. She started watching more film, just talked about what we're doing here. She was really excited. So that's never happened to me. So, and then she decided to sign and come, and I'm really, really excited about her because I think that losing Dominique was one of the most, and Dominique was very important to us, and we would not win without Dominique. So adding her, it just kind of filled a void that I felt like we really needed to get to the next level. So that's her.
Do you guys like have a board in terms of players like that, grad transfers that you want to go after? How does that work?
Well, I don't really, ideally, in the perfect situation, I don't want to really go after a grad transfer every year. But I think the difference is like when you lose a Dominique, you're younger in that position, someone that's really good that can add right away, you take them. And I think that's what you're going to see most programs do that. You see like Dejanay Carrington leaving Stanford, going somewhere else. She wants to, try something different. It's just really interesting. So I think that's going to be a normal trend because you can get a lot better fast. Because think about it, we were preseason number 7. That was before that sign. I think with her, I think we could have even bumped up a little bit. So in a perfect world, you don't want to do that, but they're really attractive because a lot of times they bring you leadership. You know what they've done. They have experience and they add value. But I wouldn't take one that wasn't an impact player. Like I wouldn't take one if, she wasn't going to come in and be impactful because I'd rather develop a younger person behind her.
So when you're recruiting those, either a top 100 freshman or someone like Trinity, what's the most important thing that you think makes them pull the trigger? And has that changed over the past couple of years?
Well, it's actually changed over the past couple of months. So what we were seeing now, most of the kids on the board, if you look at the last top, like all top 50 kids, like about 15 have committed in the last couple of weeks. All of these kids pretty much said they were doing it in the fall because most haven't had a chance to go on campuses, but COVID has changed that because now I think people are scared to go further away from home. And it's really interesting because it's made us have to move up our timeline because a lot of them we thought, okay, they're going to visit in the fall and make a decision. 90% of these kids don't make decisions now because they would normally be playing July basketball and they want to go to school and see campus. But now a ton of decisions are being made without seeing campus. So I think what you're going to see is this group that's signing now, I think you're going to see a lot of kids transferring in the next couple of years. I think it's going to be even more because they're going, like if you've never been out to Arizona and you come here, what if you hate it when you get here? You could love it, but you could hate it. And I think a lot of kids are going to be in that situation. But a couple things have also changed, that COVID, because they want to stay closer to home, the people are scared. The other thing that's changed that the amount of transfers in the portal. So there is like tons of kids in the portal. So it's making the 21 class speed up because now schools like us, we can sign a transfer. They can take place of that 21. I'm saying it's not a fifth year, a transfer that would sit out, like let's say a Bendu. If Bendu has to sit out, she goes in that 21 class. So I think it's also put a little bit more pressure on the 21s in that sense. So it's changed a lot in the last year, a lot.
Hey, Adia, you have 14 players on scholarship now. Are you still going to fill that last one, or how's that going to pan out?
Yeah, so ideally for me, in a perfect world, I don't want 15 players. 15 players, it's just too many, and like 7 people aren't happy. And I think you end up having more transfers. But I think now just where we're at, and we're getting good, and it's just we have an opportunity of adding some really good players, like some really impactful players that help us win a championship. So I think if it's a very, very good player, I would possibly take another one. it could, and probably not a fifth year because most of the best fifth years have already entered the portal. But a transfer, they would sit out this year because I'm going to lose. We're losing Ari and we're losing Sam, which is big. So a transfer that can start as a junior just gives us more experience. So it would have to be a need, and it would probably be one of those positions.
And how does going forward, so like, your camps are canceled this summer, obviously. They have to be. How is that does that impact classes further down the line? Because, some of these girls would be coming to your camp, and, you want to build that up so that they come, they get to see the program a little bit. They see how they get to meet you, and they start that connection with you. It might be a little early, it might not be, but I know that camp is important. And how does this affect classes going forward?
Well, I mean, because Tucson's not typically, we don't recruit a ton of kids from Tucson. I think there's usually one kid maybe every couple of years that's good enough to really help your program in the Pac-12. And there's a couple kids this year, but there isn't a lot. But I think when you start that foundation early and you get kids excited, then they get excited to go to AAU. Hopefully you kind of develop that. But I think the other areas it's really hurting other staff. Because, I mean, think of how camps are used. Camps aren't used really to benefit like me personally. It's for kind of lower staff that maybe they don't earn as much money during the year. So they have a chance to work camp, get in the community, and it supplements a lot of income for probably like 10 other people. So that hurts. And I think the other place it really hurts is the community, because you have 100 little girls coming that are so excited about basketball. And we even have some boys sometimes. And I think it hurts in that sense because the future of future cats and the excitement, or maybe they start to play basketball because of that camp. I get tons of emails from parents. So I think it hurts in that sense. And we could have probably had one in like August, but for me, it's just, I don't know if it's the best thing to have 100 little kids in one place right after all this. I didn't think it was a safe thing right now. I was too scared to be the one to make that call. And so I just figured it's better to cancel, but it just affects a lot of people.
What can you say about Marta, and what do you kind of expect from her?
So Marta's a really good post player, good inside, finishes great with her right and left hand. Marta comes from a very elite club, and the same one as Helena Puello. So that's Segle in Spain. So she gives us a presence inside, someone that can play back to the basket, but she can also shoot the three. So I think it's, she's a freshman, so she's going to adjust to the style just like Helena did in the beginning. I think she can be a really good player. So I think, always the chance with, or the risk with international kids is how they adjust to everything. It's like, it's either going to be an easy adjustment. I think for kids like the Spanish kids, it's an easier adjustment because they're away from home already. Like for like Berna and Tara is a little harder because they're living at home. So and they're now 7,000 miles away from home. But in Segle, they're already away from home. They're living in a dorm, kind of semi-college like. So I think that transition's a little bit easier.
Yeah, this is the first time some of us have had a chance to talk to you since the end of the season. How would you describe that last day and what that conversation was like with the team?
The last day was the hardest moment I've had coaching. Before that, so if you rewind before that call was made and we were told everything was canceled, before that I was devastated a few days before that because I heard that we can possibly be hosting. We were at a very good chance of being a 3 seed and then hosting the first 2 rounds. Like we were going to host, everybody knew that. I was devastated at first because I heard that we were going to play without fans. So that was the first part. I was like, we've worked so hard to play at home. The whole purpose of playing at home is to sell out McHale and have 15,000 fans. So I was like devastated with that. I was like, oh, it's not an advantage if you're going to play with no fans at home. And then a couple of days later, I heard about it being canceled. I really didn't think that was a reality. I mean, the thought of canceling, the NCAAs, I thought that was like not going to ever happen. So I really didn't think that would happen. And then I was walking down the practice and I get a call from Dave and telling that the season was canceled. And so I'm just like walking in the RJ like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe this. I was just like, okay, I need to be really strong because the kids were all, you could tell like a manager or someone said it because they were all kind of huddled as I was walking in. So I think the news was just breaking from the NCAA, and then brought them in a circle and told them that our season's over. That was hard. It was hard because I didn't want to cry because I knew it was an emotional time, and I kept myself together. And then my boss, Susie, comes down and talks about it, and she shed a tear, and it was over after that. But it was just a hard moment because they put their hearts out. We exceeded everybody's expectations in the country. We did so many amazing things. We only lost 2 games the whole year we should have won. I mean, really, one of them we shouldn't have, but we lost. Our worst game of the year is our last game of the season. So besides that, we had a really great season. We beat people that no one thought we'd beat. So I think I was just heartbroken for the Lucias that came here when our program was awful, for the Dominics that transferred wanting to win, for Mari who had never been to a tournament. Like, those things were hard. And then for Ari who had worked so hard through pain the last couple months, wanting to make the tournament. I think that my heart was broken for all of that stuff because it's your blood, sweat, and tears the whole year. So it was hard to swallow. And it didn't even set in for like 2 or 3 weeks after that because it was just like surreal. I thought, oh, well, maybe they'll reverse it. I didn't really think that was actually going to ever happen.
So with everyone kind of contained right now, how do you do the training part? And when they come back, how are you going to start that back up?
So that's a concern because people like Cheval in Turkey, they can't leave their house. So it's like they can't really go walk around, go to the park. So I mean, for me, I'm a little worried. I think it's a little different if like, Sam and Dominique, they're in Tucson, they can go run at the park. The weather is great here. You're not in snow. I think you have access to more things. So what we're doing is remotely, we give them these like programs. It's called Bridge Program. So they look at it, they have their weights, there's conditioning on there. But the reality is a lot of them can't condition, like Puyo can't leave. Cheval can't leave. I mean, Aries recovering. So my worry is that people are going to sit in the house for 4 months and then we got to start, like, we're going to be way behind because normally we would have had 6-8 more weeks of training. So I think the concern is injuries. We have to be really smart. And remember, nowadays, it's not like when I went to school, you can't just bring them back and then you start going all out because you have to gradually, percentage-wise, because now there's cases of rhabdo and like athletes are collapsing because you don't know what they've been doing. They could say, oh, I've been working out. Maybe they've done 0. You can't just train them hard because it shocks your system. So it's going to be interesting to see how this affects women's basketball or just sports in general. But, on the flip side, what if it's a blessing? Because people they get a mental break. They get to just like not worry about basketball. I mean, you think of Harvard's and the Ivy League, they don't work out all summer. So who knows? I'm curious to see like who's going to come in out of shape, who's going to, I just don't know.
EJ, go ahead.
Okay. So, when we're talking about this and there's been all these types of rumors that like football's going to, maybe they'll play it in January, maybe they'll play individual sports in fall, like golf and tennis, and they'll just switch everything around. Is this, part of what you're doing now? Are you on these calls with these contingency plans? And like if it starts, if women's basketball gets started up like in November or December, instead of when you usually do for training, like what does that look like? Or if it gets pushed back to January, and if all those sports are all at the same time, what does it look like?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm very confident that we'll play basketball. What I'm not as confident about is how football is going to be introduced back. I think it'll be, because there's so many people, I think it's just going to be a smaller skill trial groups. I don't have any doubt that we're going to play. Like, that's just my feeling. Don't quote me on that. That's just what I feel because we have so much time. But I think football could be pushed back a little bit because of how much they have to train. I think some of the fall sports can be affected a little bit, but I don't think it's going to affect basketball. I think that they're probably just going to have to check temperatures or something. But no one's even talking about that because there's just so many things that are like, there's so much stuff on the board and so many scenarios. But I do think in May, I think I would think that some athletes maybe it's just with trainers, maybe it's training outside. I would say, well, it's already May. I would say in the next month. I think that'll happen. Like, for instance, I mean, at U of A, I just got tested for the antibody. I don't have my results yet. Not that would lead. But I got tested. So I think that there's going to be more testing and because otherwise there's no end. I mean, otherwise you wait 6 more months. People aren't even staying in their house half the time anyways. I don't know how there would ever be an end. And I think when professional sports are going to start back up, I think that Now, if they don't start, I think that affects everything else. But I think there's just going to be something. I think we will play sports, and I think we will go back to campus, and I'm pretty confident July or August.
Do you think that there'll probably not be fans there until we get the testing and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think for us, I think by November, I think we will play with fans. Now, I don't know. Do you spread them out? Like, do you have seats in between? I don't know how that looks, but I just think that's a challenge because you're walking by each other in the arena anyways. I think it's kind of really hard to distance that way. But I think by then, I think we'll have better tests. I think more people will be tested. And I think, and it's not affecting our sales. That's the crazy thing. I would have thought more because I was worried. I was like, oh, wow, we're second in attendance last year. But our tickets are selling like crazy. We already have like 700, as of last week, 700 new accounts. So people are still buying our tickets. I think people are pretty optimistic. Yeah, maybe you take temperatures when they go in. I don't know.
And
That's
what? Okay.
A hard problem to answer.
Here's a question that you might be able to answer, maybe not. But so, say football gets moved back to January, and then they'd have to move volleyball. And then you start thinking about what does Lauren Ware do? Because, she's supposed to be volleyball until, she plays that and then she comes to basketball.
Yeah, that would be, and I honestly haven't thought, 'cause I didn't think that would happen. So I honestly haven't thought about that, but you're right. But if that did happen, that hurts us because we wouldn't have her. But I just don't see it being pushed. I don't know. I don't see it being pushed back that long. I would think pushed back a couple months. I wouldn't think pushed back like 4 months. From July to January, I wouldn't think that. I would think maybe from July, maybe they can start August, end of August. That's a long time from now. That's like 3 more months. So I really think before then, I think they're going to, I don't think they're going to allow 500 athletes to go back to campus. But I think that slowly, maybe it's just the fall sports and football in smaller groups. I would think something like that first. Because a lot of sports, if you look at across the country, states are opening up on May 1st. Restaurants are opening, which I think is a little early, but I think it's already kind of starting to happen. So I'm optimistic about us. I don't see us being pushed back.
Adia, can you please comment on Dee Dee Wheeler being named the TUSD AD?
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And it's funny because I kind of knew that she was planning on possibly moving back here and stuff like that. I think it's great for us. It's great for women's basketball. I think it's a huge role. I mean, you would know more because you're in that field more than me, but I think it's great. And I think she's someone who is a great player. She's been around our program for a couple of years. I mean, she travels from Chicago to go see us at the Pac-12 tournament. She's an advocate for us. So I think it's really good. And I think she can help change, youth athletics a little bit here in Tucson because they really need a facelift. And we need more stuff for little girls. We need to have a feeding system. We don't have that here. So hopefully she can help with that stuff.
Yeah, how was the process with Aerie? How did that work from your standpoint? And from the women's basketball standpoint, is it similar to the men where you get information from the WNBA teams about the evaluation of a player and helping through that process?
Yeah, see, I don't know how it normally is because it was my first time going through that, but I had personal relationships with a lot of the coaches, so I already kind of knew. And I had friendships with the people that were trying to draft her. So that was kind of an awkward situation because these are my friends for many years. And they want to draft her, and it's like I would say, well, your interest is to draft her, my interest is to keep her here. So it was kind of an interesting thing. But I knew there was someone in particular that really wanted her, and they would have and told me they would draft her in the spot that I thought. So for me with Aerie, I took a step back. I gave her the pros and the cons. I put her with resources to talk to people that were in the same situation as her. They were longtime pros. They could have left early. One of them was Tisha Pinachero. And so I just gave her the resources, but I wanted to take a step back. I didn't want to be the coach that's like asking her, putting pressure, because she has to make the decisions that's best for her. I gave my opinion, and my opinion was to stay. It wasn't about me. I care about Aerie. I've known her a long time. It wasn't about me and the program. Yes, does she help us get a lot better? Yes, but I thought we'd be pretty good anyways. Are we better with Aerie? No doubt. But I thought that it was the best thing for her life because she wasn't healthy. She had a stress reaction. She was playing hurt the last couple months. I didn't think it was the best thing to go into camp hurt. you got to go in like already because you got to prove yourself and make teams, and it's not easy. It's cutthroat. And then it's like with the situation after that happened, COVID, it's just you don't know if the WNBA is going to play, and overseas is a disaster right now. Like my husband's, Salvo's dad is a coach for a Division I team in Italy. The money is like all the money across Europe is low. So some clubs, half of the Italian clubs in Italy, they're folding because there's no money. So I think the timing, it buys her another year to get healthy, get a master's degree, get better. She has to get better in some areas to be a really good pro. And then it gives the economy time to recover a little bit. So there ends up being more money in Europe later. And her pick will be higher. So there was no reason. Now I would have been totally different. Let's say it's a situation like the NBA, she can go make $1 million now and make $6 million, or $6 million now, $1 million later, or who knows gets hurt. I would have been the first one to say, Ari, you got to go. You already have your degree, go. It's $6 million. But we're talking $67,000, but it's going to be the same in a year. So for me, it did not make sense to go.
Do you expect Bendu to be able to play this year, and what kind of player is she?
I don't know if she can play. There's some stuff that came out yesterday. So at first I thought they were going to vote on the 20th. Then I read all these articles. So I'm not that optimistic. It's not till January now. So I'm not sure. I think that for her, the main thing is she has to get healthy because she's recovering from an Achilles injury. If she could play, that'd be great. But if she's not 100%, I don't want her to waste the year playing. So I think that's going to be one of those things. And we have to see, she just had filed a waiver to get last year back. So I have to see with her clock exactly how that falls. But if she can play, she's a tremendous athlete, a great defender, very strong. I mean, her next to Ari, Shayna, Sam we would be extremely athletic and explosive. So, either way. But then if she has to sit out, she has a year to earn our system. Ari's leaving, she kind of fills in a spot, and then Shayna still has another year after that. So either way, it's a win-win for us because we're adding a good player in person to the program.
And what can people expect from Darren?
So Darren's a combo guard. Darren, the first thing is I'm hoping that she can get over here. So the trouble with Spain and Turkey is I don't know if the embassies are closed right now. So we're trying to get things kind of in progress earlier. So to make sure she can get here, because if we wait till the very end, all the students are trying to come over, the embassies are backed up. So now we've been talking a lot about that, trying to kind of get things in place for July. But she's a fearless guard. She can score, she can play the 1, she can play the 2, she can shoot it. She's got a strong body. So I think she'll have a learning curve because it's just so much more athletic here. But the perfect person to learn under is Shayna, possibly Bendu, Sam, and Ari. So I think she'll just get better and get more experience. But I think she can be a good player and be successful here because she's more powerful and stronger than a typical European guard.
And you've been ranked on these way too early polls, top 10, and then now probably top 5. This is a new place for you. How do you sort of manage expectations from the team, even from the community? Because now it's like you're not only expected to win, but win big. And this is all new for you.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how we're going to react. I would have been a lot more comfortable if we played in the tournament, went deep, and had some of that experience, because I think that would make things easier for this year. Because now we're going to be in uncharted territory again, and we make the tournament this year. So that's the part I don't love. What I love is that it shows how our program has evolved, and the expectations are hard. To me, it's fun. I think it's a lot harder though, versus being the one that hunts after people and being the hunted. I think it's totally different. So it's my job to bring in people to help us elevate that expectations and just have the standards a lot higher. But like someone like Ari that's coming back is really hungry. So I think her and Sam, they're the people that are going to start all that. And they're going to start that from the first day in the weight room. They're going to set those standards high because the expectations are higher. So it's harder. It's going to be more competitive. And I'm going to tell you, our practices are going to be way more competitive just because of who's coming back. Shane is one of the most competitive people I know. On the practice team, Shayna would drive you crazy because she was so competitive. We'd be like, Shayna, you're not playing. Just go with the practice team. So I think, but that's a great problem to have. I'd rather have that than the other way. And then Bendu, even adding him, whether she plays or not. So the love in Trinity is a different kind of kid, a kid that's hungry, wants her, she's trying to go play pro. So I think you're going to see super driven, you're going to see high expectation. And like, I think we'll be a lot better defensively. So we're going to get after it, but we just have to elevate our game. We're going to have a better non-conference. Everything, the expectations are higher, the stakes are higher. So I'm curious to see how we're going to respond, because I don't know, because we've never done it. Like, I've done it as a player, but they've never done that. So I have to just be a leader and show them how to do it.
Is there anything new with the non-conference schedule, or what's that shaping up to be like?
Well, I mean, the non-conference has been very difficult because as we got better throughout the season, the games got harder to fill. We literally have had 3 games we had to fill for like over 8 months. So it's been like, and then finally we got, with some help of like the AD in different situations, we got the games filled for us. We will still win at them. And I'm even saying offering to pay for teams. People don't want to come to McHale and play. And that's never been a problem I've had, because before people were calling off the chart, like everybody was trying to play us. And then like as the year, they didn't want to play us. So we still have 1 game to get. So we're still trying to hunt for 1 game. So now we've tried everybody, like everybody in Cal, we've tried everybody. And so I'm kind of waiting now, because things are changing in conferences. A lot of people aren't allowed to travel and fly. So I'm waiting till like people are having to cancel non-conference games. So then I'm going to try to get someone who's close once they have to cancel a game to come play us. But it's been a nightmare. And like the Pac-12 notoriously doesn't have $200,000 to spend on guarantees. Like the SEC, you know, or certain schools you spend, so we've never done that, and we've never had to. So our budget was a lot lower for guarantees. But now the reality is changing. We're having to pay people to come in here and play because they don't want to come here, which is a good problem to have, right? But it is a problem. It takes a lot of work. That's why I'm doing scheduling, but it's hard.
Have you given Coach Miller any advice about recruiting international players?
No, we actually talked. It's funny because he told me he's recruiting some internationals. And I think that it's because in his situation, it's very difficult. You have to recruit like 8 people a year. I would not want to do that. You have such a big turnover every year. And so I think with international kids, there are going to be some one and dones, but I think there's also a different level of motivation sometimes. I think, you know, if you look at the situations overseas, they're nothing like here. I mean, maybe when you get to the highest level of Spanish league or something, but I think sometimes there's a lot more hungry, and it's just different. I think the work ethic's different sometimes, for women especially. So I actually sent him a link to this global stuff. It's a link we use, but now tracking all the embassies and stuff. So I actually sent it to them last week. But he was excited because he's going to sign a few, so he's excited.
Ian, what was your relationship with Muffet McGraw? Were you kind of surprised she made the decision to step away?
I was very surprised. You know, I knew they had a down year, but that, I mean, when you lose like 5 players to WNBA, I think that's what happens. But, you know, she had been there 33 years. But I was sad she retired because she's such a huge like voice for women's basketball. And she's outside the box. And I think that she's just great for our game. But, you know, Nielle's a friend of mine for many years. So I was really, really happy that she, you know, paved the way for Nielle. I think that was a great hire.
What can you say about Lauren as a player?
Lauren's very, very good. Lauren hasn't even scratched her potential at all because Lauren's never played like a full year of women's basketball at all. She's only played like a couple months here, a couple months AAU, then volleyball. So she's never even committed to one. She's got very good hands. She's got a very nice turnaround jumper, very fundamental, good footwork, good timing on blocking shots, mobile, all that stuff I think that makes her successful in volleyball. Quick on her feet. She'll be a 4 or 5 for us. Smart defensively in the right position, I think, because her hands and feet are so good because of volleyball. And I think, you know, the interesting thing is she's impactful for basketball and also impactful for volleyball. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work. I think usually if you look at 2 sport athletes, they're usually a lot better in one than the other. Usually pretty good in one and really good in the other. But she's equally it's like she can be an All-American in volleyball, she can be an All-American in basketball. So I'm curious to see which one kind of dominates because I don't know. And I don't think she knows yet. So I want to see how that evolves. And, you know, she's still rehabbing. She's not cleared yet. But she was invited to USA Basketball. She would have been McDonald's All-American, Jordan Brand. I mean, without even ever playing a full year of basketball. So I'm excited about her. I'm so excited. I just, I'm just curious. Like if what PJ said happens, it's going to be really bad because I'm planning on getting her end of December, early January. So, but she's going to be behind, have to catch up. So that's not easy for a player, but I think she can do it.
So
Well, I guess, go ahead, Jay.
okay. What's kind of the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself during this time? It's the first time that you've really had a chance to stop and sit down. You've always, as a player, you were 24/7. I mean, you were just going all the time. And as a coach, these last 4 years, you've really never had much time to yourself or for your family.
Yeah, for me, it's not that bad. But also, I'm in a home with a yard, so I think if I was in an apartment by myself, a lot harder. I think when you have a family, and I never have family time, it's not bad. I think it's a time where I've never had so many Zoom calls in my life. Sometimes I have like 8 Zoom calls in a day, so it's a challenge at home working. But I think for me, it's time to spend time with our family. I've cooked more than I ever cooked. I never have time to cook during the year. I'm usually working like 80 hours a week. So for me, I know I'm never going to have this time back. So I'm cherishing it. And I don't even go to the store. We order. So for me, it is a good thing. And I think it's going to reset everybody. I think it's going to change our world. How I think is like after 9/11, didn't it change our travel? We traveled different. We couldn't walk to the gate. I think this is going to change our lives, but I think it's resetting us. And we're thinking about what's important. And just family time and cherishing those things and taking things for granted. I think that we all did before because you get in the hustle bustle of working every day, the next recruit, your players and stuff. You never have family time. So that's why Zoom calls are hard. That's why I'm always off camera.
Adia, a couple questions here. In terms of Lauren, I know there was a high school girl up in Phoenix this year who actually was playing soccer and basketball simultaneously because they're the same seasons. Could a player do that in college, play 2 sports? And also in terms of Saval and Helena, was there ever any consideration for them not going back across seasons, staying here in the United States at all?
No consideration for them. To answer the second question, no consideration staying here because all of their families want them home. I think the scary thing for international kids was their parents thought they'd be stuck here because they were closing the airport. So everybody was trying to get home before everything was closed. They wanted them home, and just to stay here, it would have also been harder because if they stay here, they're stuck by themselves. It's not like usually I'd have people at my house all the time. Right now, I'm not having people at my house because of the situation. So I think being by themselves would be hard. So that wasn't even a thought. They were trying to get out of here and go home. Now, the hard thing for them is they're sitting at home, like in Spain and Turkey, very serious. Can't walk the streets, can't be with more than 2 people. Really serious lockdown, different than here. So they're sitting at home and they're doing little workouts at home, but it's not the same doing bridges and abs versus running the court. So that's a concern. And all their basketball is canceled for the summer. So both would have been playing with the national team, and that's where they get all their experience and they work hard and get better. So they don't have that. So that's going to affect them. And I think playing 2 sports, I think volleyball and basketball can work because right when she ends, she's only missing non-conference. For us, it's Lauren. And then you can play. I think it's very challenging for 4 years. I think there are very few players that do it successfully. So I don't know if she will do it all 4 years. I don't know. I think it becomes now with all the times we can work out players and it's almost all year round. I think there's more of a challenge because of that. And I think what's going to happen is usually an athlete will excel more at one or the other and want to focus on it. So I don't know if she'll play all 4 years. I think it's impossible if they're like the same season overlapping. I think there would be no way. And I think the difference is I have a very good relationship with Dave. If I did not have a good relationship with Dave, I don't think it could be possible. Because when Lauren was looking at some other schools that did not have good, relationships between the sports, then the women's basketball coach was saying, no, you need to come practice with us. I'm not saying that. I recognize that I'm giving her up the whole non-conference and that she's not going to be at our skill work. She's not going to be at all of our, we're putting in our defenses and all that. She's just going to miss all that. So I'm okay with that. But a lot of places would make you choose because they wouldn't be okay with that on both fronts.
Do you worry because she's playing those two sports that maybe she won't be able to be as good as she could in volleyball or basketball?
I mean, that's a thought. I think from a selfish standpoint, I know she'd be better at basketball. She did the non-conference and the preseason. There's no doubt in my mind. But I think that for her, she's a kid. She loves both of them. She's really good at both. So I have to support her dreams and like let her try it. She can love it and want to do them both. And maybe she's going to be the rare Natalie Williams type that can be incredible at both. But I think that's something she has to figure out. I wouldn't want her to go through a college and say, oh, I should have done it. Because there's even times I was a pretty good volleyball player. I thought about doing it. But I think you try it. And if you love it and you can do it both and you want to play all year round and have like a week off, then you got to go for it. Right. But I think that she would be a lot better at basketball if she played all year round with us.
You got time for a couple more?
Okay, what do you think that you'll take from this time that will maybe change the way you coach or something like that? Or
I won't change the way I coach. I think we have to change the way they coach initially. So I'm in the middle of thinking about a plan for us, like possibly starting later, like not much later, even a month, because a month for us to start later affects us tremendously because we're putting in a lot of stuff. I'm also thinking of a way in case I don't have everybody. So those are things, or if I get people in July, what does that look like? So I'm kind of working through those things because if I get everybody in July, I'll do workouts for a month in July. But what does that look like because they haven't done anything for months? So I'm just kind of trying to put different scenarios to help us be our best. And for me, it's a great time to study. I have time to study some different things, study a lot of film on Trinity and who's coming in, Lauren and putting in different things. So I've never had so much time to do this. So that's been good. I think that coaching, I'm not going to change. We're recruiting like a lot right now. For us coaches, we're working a regular job. We're working our 40 hours because we're recruiting a lot. And I think every other coach in America is recruiting a lot. We're doing Zoom calls every couple of days with kids. So that hasn't changed. It's just recruiting is different. Now, if we don't go out in July, that's our biggest recruiting month. That's going to tremendously change a lot because kids that we would have seen in the earlier classes, we're not going to see. So now we're using more stuff online. I think they are planning on playing in July. I don't know if it's going to be with coaches. So there might be more of watching on the computer. So I think they're just changing the whole thing, strength and conditioning. Like we're monitoring them with food and stuff as best we can, but it's just, you can just tell kids, but they're kids. So I don't know how. I have to see how we come back and we get assessed to see where we're at because I have no idea. And I think every team's in the same situation.
How different is your message now? And I don't mean because of COVID, but because of the change in the program. How different is your recruiting message now?
It's completely different. Before, because remember when I first got here, it was like selling a vision. Even when the year of the NIT, no one knew what we were going to do. Everybody wants to make the tournament. So I think before I was selling a vision like we can be good, we can compete, but like it wasn't any proof. I think now we have the proof. Like we have, big games, we have over 10,000 people. Like I think next year we were second in attendance this year. I think we can be first next year or towards the top, some of the top 12 in the country. So I think that's what kids like, and I have the proof of that and the evidence to show. Look at our arena. Wouldn't you want to play in this environment? I think the difference is we have so much momentum. So it's a lot easier to sell to a top player. Oh, we're preseason number 7. Could be preseason. People are talking about after we got Trinity, oh, we can win a national championship. So that enables you to get better kids. Now the downfall and the hard thing is when you get the better kids, you recruit less, but you're recruiting, let's say, an elite 20 kids. Well, you know who else is recruiting them? UConn, Baylor, Louisville, so South Carolina. So and those teams have already done some of those things. So now I think the competition is even a little harder. I think before you could go get that 3-star kid, and just kind of figure it out. I think now it's kind of like you need the kids that can help you win a championship. So those are the best. And so the challenge is you competing. I mean, literally, we've lost a couple kids, but it's like South Carolina, Texas got a couple. And the West Coast is really down. The West Coast is in about 2 years, the West Coast is better. Like California is down. So all the great kids are all like in the South or East Coast. So we're now recruiting Atlanta, Georgia, New York, which is really far. And it makes it more challenging because of the COVID situation. So all those things, but it's much easier to sell when you're winning. It's much easier to sell, hey, we're a top 5 team next year. We have potential to be. Come help us get to a championship. You know, you can be, you're that missing piece. So it's a lot better. And the other thing that makes it easier, when you coach a great player, like, you know, Kate Reese and Ari, and people see that, and Sam, people see how you use them, see how they've evolved. I mean, Sam had one Pac-12 offer. Like, it was us when she came here. Now she's like, we don't win without Sam. You know, Ari wasn't Ari. Ari's evolved. She's in a great system. So now you can show other point guards that are great. You can say, hey, look how we use Ari. You know, look how she is in our system. And great players want to see that, and they want to see how you use other great players so they can see how they fit. So that, and Kate, you know, Kate was, you know, McDonald's All-American, but she still had to prove herself. She's a skinny, tall blonde, but is dominates, right? So that a high school kid, that's a lot of times how high school kids are built, right? So they see what she's done. They see her improve. And I always tell recruits, look for evidence. We value player development. We do it a lot every day. So I say, look at the kids in their freshman. Look when they're a sophomore. They should be improving. If not, we're not doing our job. So I always say, look for that. And now we're kind of building up that resume to where you can look back and look at how players are getting better. I always say, look at Titi. Look at Dominique. Titi was told not to shoot at her last school. Titi did not shoot outside. Okay, Titi was one of our best spot-up shooters the NIT run, you know, that whole year. If you look at Dominique did not take a 3. She wasn't allowed to shoot outside. She shot in the key. She played back to the basket. Here, she shot 41% from the 3. So their games evolve and change. So I talk a lot about the growth of those kids.
People have been talking about Trinity as like a replacement for Dominique. How similar are their games?
They're different. Both smart. Dominique is one of the smartest basketball players I've ever coached. So I think that is hard to fill. Dominique made us special because she could guard a 4, she could guard a 5, she could guard a 3. So we switched a lot when she was in. So we could switch 1 through 4. Dominique was a good defender, smart, fearless, shot the 3 at a high percentage. I think the similarities are they both can stretch the defense. They're both about the same size. They both can shoot the 3. I think the difference is Trinity is going to be a more like stronger inside player. I think more rebounding, more isolating, more rips and goes from, I think more of attack mentality. So I think probably a little bit more aggressive offensively. But Dominique was very smart, and Dominique was never forcing shots and stuff. So, you know, Trinity will have to fit the role. But I think that she gets us better automatically interior, more physical, and more presence on the boards. And the rebounding is one of the things that I thought we did not do well. And that's one thing, that was one area we had to get in. So I knew she makes us better in that area, like tremendously better. I mean, she was like 8 off the bench in like 20 minutes. So.
All right, you guys all good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Adia.
thank you, everybody. Be safe.